So, I was thinking, I said in the last video that a full explanation of what Limbo does would require a multi-part video series, and if I was trying to write it as a complete guide, it would. But honestly, I think it's more important to just do a quick video on what Limbo can actually do. This is sort of so I have something to show those curious about Limbo and its capabilities, but to be honest, it's mostly just to give me something that I can shove down the throats of anyone who still asks that question. So now that my selfish reasoning for doing this is covered, let's begin. The main thing you need to know about Limbo is that if the mission has an objective more complex than just stay alive, there's a good chance he can trivialize it. On defense, mobile defense, Kuva survival, excavation, and anything else with a static objective, he can just pop his Cataclysm on the target and make it basically impossible to touch. He does have to recast Cataclysm and Stasis every once in a while, but depending on his mods, he can pretty easily reach well past a minute of duration, and since he and his team should be clearing around the objective, the 2 seconds or so that the excavator or whatever is targetable should never really be a risk. But what he's even better at defending are actually NPCs. By simply tossing them in the void and keeping them there, he pretty much removes any chance of them dying, since the only things that can hurt them are enemies who can pull them out of the void. And generally, you should be able to spot bursts, scrambuluses, and nullifiers well before they can get close enough to be a real threat. Which means he turns sortie defense into a survival mission where you don't need to worry about life support, turns defection into an escort mission where the only danger is their life support, and makes rescue missions even easier. As for the other missions, as mentioned in the last video, Limbo can just place a large bubble over interception nodes, cover both terminals, and then leave it to go gun down enemies at another point. As long as he's watching the timers, he'll be able to see if the bubble goes down early or is running out of duration, and go back to defend and recast that shield. His usefulness on assassinations a bit more varied, as against some bosses like Cataclysm, he can use Cataclysm to give a team-wide safety net during the AoE orbital strike stage, and on others he can stand in front of the boss and serve as sort of a tank while the others on his team target the weak points. And there's also a few places where you can just put a Cataclysm on an area that ads come through and keep the stage a bit clean so you can focus on the boss. But other than those cases, the main thing he does is just supply more gunfire, and he can quickly step into the void to revive anyone who dies. Now, his weakest mode is generally going to be survival, but he does have some tricks you can use there too. Unfortunately, most of them can mess with or be messed with by other players. First, he can create a small life strikes, bleed, or gas effect on an enemy or two somewhere in the level, cast stasis on that enemy, and leave it alone. This will heal him for a small amount of health every second for as long as that enemy has not bled to death, and it will last for as long as his stasis does. Unfortunately, abilities can kill things even in the void, and you know that Valkyr or Excalibur or whatever is not going to care if they literally murder his survivability. Next, we've got the various ways Limbo can use Rift Torrent, a wonderful mod that boosts all his damage by 30% per enemy that's in the void. Then this can be boosted by power strength, and it gives him an absolutely absurd amount of damage amplification. But to use it, he needs things to be in the void, and he needs to be in the void himself. So, naturally, his team will want to murder him no matter how he has it set up. Then we've got the simplest option. He can combine Hunter Adrenaline, Quick Thinking, and a strong melee with Life Strike and go nuts. As long as his melee is strong enough, the health regeneration from Life Strike will keep him there, and Hunter Adrenaline will help restore his energy, so he should stay alive for ages. If he does start to get low on energy or things get too hot, he can dodge into the Rift Plane, get some distance, and swap to a range style. As long as he keeps swapping between extreme ballsiness at high energy and more careful playstyle when low, he can pretty much effectively fight through even high-level sortie content / Kuva floods while basically never dying, even though he will easily be the most damage taken on the team. That said, they're talking about changing how channeling works, so it seems even DE wants to murder Limbo here. Oh, and on a side note, if you're doing a long survival and need a bathroom break, just tell Limbo and he can basically just keep you banished and safe. Anyways, that pretty much covers the basics. There's some smaller things that Limbo does, like turning bursts into bitches, but the gist of what Limbo does is pretty much that while he may not do any special damage unless he's utilizing Rift Torrent, the immense amount of control he can apply over a mission cannot be overstated. If you have a Limbo on the team, and he knows what he's doing, you can't fail it. You can't even begin to fail it. He can basically turn any mission in the game into survival without life support, and the only thing you will still need to worry about is clearing enemies. You know, the part of the game that people tend to like the most. Anyways, I hope you have enjoyed this episode. If you've learned anything, like and subscribe, and I will see you in the future. Farewell.